The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondell.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Stage Door Show. This is Dave Hondell. Tonight, my guests are from the documentary Minnesota Mean that follows a group of women in the sport of roller derby. The film shows how the group not only bonds over the years they've been in the sport together, but it also navigates their time away from the rink and the determination they have to go after the coveted top prize, the Hydra. Most importantly, as someone who was raised by a strong woman myself, the strength that these incredible women possess on and off the rink is something that I applaud you both for. With me tonight is Shiver Kimbers, Kimberly Foster from the film, and also the three-time Emmy-winning producer and director, Don Mikkelson. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with you, Kimbers, because, first of all, I want a little background on roller derby, because roller derby has been a sport for a lot of years, but, it's something that I've enjoyed watching when I was a kid, actually, even, they used to actually televise some of that. But give us a little background on roller derby, because it takes a lot of not only skill, but a lot of physical ability and working as a team. So I know you're a lot of, independent, athletes, but you have to work as a team in order to win. So talk about roller derby a little bit and a little bit of background on it.
Well, I mean, like you said, right, roller derby, was in its heydays in the, 60s and 70s, and with the bank track and a lot of, WWE type sensationalism along with it, right? Usually owned, I think it was owned by a man, promoting women, and watching women get all physical with each other, right? And so like getting that kind of audience with it. Today's version of roller derby is very much for the skaters, by the skaters, skater owned and operated, like for ourselves, all about women empowerment and giving back to the communities in which we reside. And we flattened out the track, so it's flat. Back in back in the 60s and 70s when they were doing it, they had a bank track. And fast forward into the early 2000s, and trying to get a bank track anywhere requires a dedicated space, because those are huge, right? Yeah. And it requires a lot of space. It requires a lot of manpower to put them up, take them down. It also requires a lot of insurance, because a lot of people don't want to insure a bank track. And so when you start something like women's flat track roller derby, you just need a big enough space to put down a track, to put down some duct tape, and there you go, and you're just on your skates and you're on your way. And so the evolution of that has been it created more accessibility, for people to be able to participate. And there's, oh my gosh, hundreds and hundreds, maybe even close to 1,000 leagues now across the world. When I was skating, we were part of the Division I roller derby through the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, which is the WFTDA, started back, I believe, out of Texas in about 2003. The Donnelly sisters here in Minnesota went down there around that time, came back and started it in 2004 here in St. Paul. And then around that same time, I think it was maybe the next year or so, there was the big hockey strike that happened here in in the Twin Cities. Yeah. And when the hockey strike happened and people didn't have hockey, we had this amazing opportunity through Minnesota Roller Girls to obtain the venue of the Roy Wilkins Auditorium in downtown St. Paul. And ever since then, that has been our practice space, our venue space, everything. And it has just been a wild ride. I joined in 2007 and skated until 2017, or actually 2018. I did one more bout after I had my son. And then I retired after that. I just had to prove to myself I could have a child and then and still play. But the evolution of the sport has been, very much from the sensationalist to like actual full contact sport on skates. Yeah. Super athleticism, which you see in the film that Don expertly crafted.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Don, as a filmmaker, I mean, this must have been a great passion project of yours to take this on. Because, I think, first of all, it shines a light on roller derby for a lot of the newer, younger people, I should say, younger people out there that weren't exposed to it before. But also, I want to ask you this question, is a two-parter. First of all, how did you get involved with this project first? And second of all, do you feel that with Caitlin Clark being, kind of taking over the WNBA and really boosting that sport, does that also kind of spill over to this sport in your mind, to kind of help, women sports in general, gain more traction?
Yeah, good questions. I would say that how I got involved was that my friend Lisa Math skated with the Minnesota Roller Derby under the name Bernasty. And, she joined it in her 40s. And at the time I was like, you are absolutely insane. I'm not sure why you're doing this. And, I'm like, you're going to hurt yourself. It's not a good idea. And she did hurt herself, but also she became a part of this incredible community of people who, what really stuck out to me is during that injury, she had people driving her to doctor's appointments and dropping off food. And, it was more like a church community in that way, or what church maybe should be, that it was totally supportive of her. And so, in 2017, I saw a number of things come together, one of which was that this team had a lot of players that were thinking this might be their last season. And these were players that have been playing for a very long time. And so it was kind of that piece of, this could be that final, go for the glory kind of thing. Yeah. But also I really, that was the filmmaking arc excuse, but really at the end of the day, I just wanted to be a part of the roller derby community in the only way I can, because I'm just not going to skate. And it's just not happening.
Never too late,
but
right?
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not skating. But I will say that, it's like that community was so strong and so inspiring to me that I was just like, I want to be a part of this in some way. And actually the film started as a series that we were pitching to Netflix and a couple of other streaming platforms. And I'd been filming with the team for like a month or so, give or take, and the pitches fell through. But at that point I was like, screw it, this is now a film. Are you guys okay with me making a film? And they said yes. So we continued, because at that point, I was just like, we've got great stories here. Let's just do this. So it was an independent film. So thus the 2017 season doesn't get seen on Amazon and Apple until 2024. Welcome to independent film.
Wow. I was going to say 7 years. Wow. That's, hey, better late than never. I mean, that's okay.
Exactly. And your point about Caitlin Clark, in 2017, when I was pitching this, I can't speak exactly for, women's sports in terms of the culture there and how things have changed across the board. But I will say in terms of pitching series, talking to broadcasters and distributors about women's sports, it's a different conversation than we were having 7 years ago. There's much more interest there. There are fewer references to like, ooh, that's sexy. That was happening a lot in 2017. And I was like, that's not what we're doing here. We're talking about athletes.
Yeah, right.
Well, and what's really crazy too about some of that, and which I love, and I'm loving the evolution of like people watching women's sports. People watch women's sports, and people always have watched women's sports. And here in Minnesota, we've had the Lynx, who have been like a leader in the WNBA for ever.
Long time.
Right? I mean, we've got so many like women focused athleticism here in this state that like the community, no matter what part of Minnesota you're in, always wraps around that.
Yeah.
And so to see that happen on a national level, like through our more contemporary athletes, is really awesome.
And Kimbers, I wanted to ask you while you were skating, I mean, it's got to be, a lot of younger girls may look up to you and maybe wanted to get into the sport because of watching you out there on the rink. So were you able to kind of mentor some of those girls, and did they go to the match or the I guess, what's that?
About and the track.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. So, I mean, did you have those interactions with the younger crowd that maybe got into it later or was about to because of watching you?
Yeah. Yes. The short answer is yes. Long answer, I did. I was mentoring some, elementary age girls that were just really excited about seeing like strong women do awesome things that also are kind and giving back and all of that. The Anne Bancroft Foundation. I'm not sure if Minnesota Roller Derby still partners with them, but while I was skating in the 10 years that we were there, we partnered with the Anne Bancroft Foundation here in Minnesota. And all of our proceeds went to a grant called Title IX for them. And what they did is they gave the money that we generated through all of our bouts after we covered our costs. They in turn gave it to girls to play in anything extracurricular. It could be sports, it could be a drama, it could be, anything extracurricular that required fees. These girls would have it paid because of the work that we were doing after we covered our costs. And so that was a really amazing thing. And we got to meet a lot of the girls who received the grants because they would come to our games, they would come to our bouts, and they would want to know how to do these things. We partnered with the Girl Scouts troops. So we would have Girl Scout Day where Girl Scouts would come in and we would do a whole day of just events, and they would earn badges and learn about roller derby and how to be strong and how to work out and take care of your body and do strong things, and body positivity too, because our sport, requires so many different body types. Like there's not one body type to play roller derby, like all of the body types fit. And so really teaching, young girls how to just enjoy and love who they are for who they are, not for who people want them to be.
Yeah.
And then on top of it too, I'm an educator. And so while like my early years skating, I was teaching in the classroom, and at the beginning of bouts, all of the skaters would be out in the kind of the vestibule area of the venue, and we would talk with fans. We would take pictures with fans. We do face paint, have kind of a carnival-esque atmosphere before the bouts actually start. And then fast forward 10 years, and one of my students showed me a picture of him with me when he was 7 years old at a bout. Wow. And telling me how like being at roller derby and watching that like really inspired him to like move forward and engage in more sports and help his friends then in turn. So again, like not just women empowerment, but being an example for young boys to see strong women in their lives, has been the whole reason why I continue to do it for as long as I did.
Well, my mom showed us what a strong woman was, and my brother and I grew up seeing a strong woman, and we were advocates, still are to this day, for strong women, and I think it's important for young men to see that and have them grow up knowing how to, first of all, how to treat women correctly and being appropriate, and also seeing that they can do anything that a man can do. And so again, I think it helps for men to advocate for that if they grow up the right way and be taught the right things and see that. So kudos to you for doing that. So I think you don't realize what impact you're making on somebody. They don't maybe always talk to you or see or say something to you or want a picture with you, but they take away, I think, a lot more than you think. So again, I congratulate you for everything that you've done. And Dawn, again, I want to ask you this question as well. As a filmmaker, this must have been a gratifying, film to make. But what did you learn from the beginning of making this until the end of, or the showing of it? So, what in between did you learn about the making of this film?
Strictly on a personal level, that's not, I guess, filmmaking. For me, it was really important to be immersed in a community of women who took up space. I think we're often taught as women to be small, to be like, oops, I'm so sorry, I'm in the way again. And these women were not apologetic about taking up the space that they needed and that they deserved. And I would say that I hold myself differently from that time. I will say that I have a different relationship with my own athleticism. Because I identified as kind of a choir theater nerd. And so I was like, I'm not an athlete. We don't do those things. And I think that, just reanalyzing what physical strength is about for me, and, that it isn't about being skinny and pretty, that it's about what can your body do. And so, man, maybe I'll live longer now. Who knows? Maybe this film has extended my life because I'm exercising more and I'm doing it because it feels good. So I mean, I think there's a personal element to this film for me about reclaiming that piece. And I will say, talking about children, it goes on to the next generation. My 11-year-old daughter joined the Minnesota Frostbite this last year, the youth roller derby team out of the Minnesota Roller Derby. And
incredible.
It has been a game changer for her as well, to see herself as strong and powerful and, taking her own name. She's Chaos on Wheels, which is appropriate.
That's a great name. I love that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And Kimbers, where do you see the future of the sport going? I mean, you've been in it for a decade, so do you see this growing even more, or what are your thoughts on that? I mean, the kind of the growth of the sport.
I don't know if I'm the best person to comment on that, to be honest. I retired in 2018, 2019 season.
Sure.
And right before, pandemic hit and all that. And since then, I've had 2 boys now. And my life has completely changed. Like I trail skate now, but I don't follow roller derby. I haven't been to a bout since I retired. To be honest, it was really hard for me to transition into this life because I wasn't ready for it. Like it was it was a hard transition for me. And so it's actually taken me until like this last year to actually be okay with, with my identity as who I am is what I should say. And a really hard fight of like, when I don't have roller derby, now who I am.
Yeah.
Or now who am I? Sorry. And so it's like, now I'm okay with that. And now I know who I am, but it took me a good 5 years to get there.
Yeah. Well, I understand that. And going from sports, sometimes people don't realize, because I played sports my whole life. And when I gave up baseball, it's funny because some people have a hard time with leaving something like that. But for me, it stopped being fun. It stopped being like, it was more work than fun. And I haven't watched a game since. So I get it. I completely understand. And I think sometimes you almost have to be in that kind of sport or anything that's physical to understand that sometimes when you walk away, it's time to transition into another life, I guess. And Don, first of all, where can people see this film if they want? I think they can rent it, correct? It's on the streaming platforms?
Yeah. So the 2 biggest platforms it's on right now are Apple TV and Amazon. Okay. But if you don't have one of those services, our website has a bunch of other links to, other digital streaming services through your various cable platform providers and such. There's a big long list that I can't memorize. So I'm always like Apple or Amazon.
And then before we, Kimbers, I saw something in one of the trailers that I wanted to ask you about. Because I know that you've broken some of your knuckles, or some of your knuckles have been, So talk about, obviously when you hurt yourself, it's never fun, but how long did it take to really recover from that? And did it sideline you for a long time when you broke these bones? Because it seems like you could break something almost every time you're out there.
No, well, yes. And it becomes very apparent actually as you're skating and when you're skating with new people. And I also ran boot camps and trained people to become members of the league. And as you start doing those things, you start realizing like whose bodies are made for it and whose bodies aren't. Right. Sure. The most common injury is a tibula-fibula fracture on your ankle. Right. Because it just like snaps right there, right above the thing. I never had one of those myself. I broke my knuckles and like thumbs and stuff like that because it's just the bending and the rolling over wheels, right? But like, what do you do with fingers? Like you just tape them. Like you tape it and you keep going. Like they never sidelined me. I didn't fracture a rib, but I was diagnosed with a fractured rib at one point. But it actually just dislodged in the back and then it had to get shoved back into place. That was not fun when that came back into place. But it felt much better once it was back in place. So that was good. But that instead of like taking me out of games, what that did instead is just moved my position more to blocking instead of jamming in that utility player position, which was great for me. I loved it. And I wasn't going to let it stop me from my one and only experience skating on the bank track when we were in LA either. And I was like, I'm going to skate that thing. And I did. And it was awesome. But you know, you have strained LCLs, MCLs, torn ACLs. I mean, I haven't torn any of them, but I've had them strained. And now that, you know, I'm in my 40s, my knees are like 80 years old. I have to wear braces and stuff when I work out and things like that. But at the time, like none of those injuries really sidelined me. And that wasn't the same for a lot of my teammates, right? Like some of them like fractured, one of them early on fractured a vertebrae. And she was in like a back brace for a while. Like the tib-fib fractures happened all the time. Concussions. Oh my gosh. Like I'm on the emergency response team when I was on playing roller derby too. It's like first responder, and the amount of concussions that would happen and just like people not knowing where they are all of a sudden. And it's so it's a lot of that kind of thing. But what we do like as a league, right? Our league really focus on being able to skate safely. Right. Yeah. And we do a whole training boot camp over the summer before the season starts with the new girls coming in. And then even, you know, girls or women, I should say women coming in, and the women that, that just skated in the first couple of years, and even some that have been skating for 12 years, just want to refresh their skills, doing the basic stuff, no real contact. How do you fall safely? How do you, fall in front of somebody else? And how do you get around that if you're the one coming on the big pile, right? And so we really had a big focus on doing it safely and making sure that we had all of the resources and things we needed to be able to hit the shit out of each other, because that was the ultimate goal. Yeah,
exactly. So what was it like, this great film that Don put together? What was it like walking in for the first time and seeing this on screen? I mean, was it pretty cool?
Well, I'm eternally grateful to Don for letting us as the people who are featured in the film to see it before, like as like a small screen, because I was able to prepare myself for what other people were going to see.
Okay, sure.
Because I shared a lot of things in that film that I had forgotten I shared with her, to be completely honest. Yeah. Right. Because at the time it's just what was happening, and that was my life. And when I watched it and I was like, yep, this is what the whole world is going to see now. Right. And when we went to the opening at the Minneapolis St. Paul, was it the Minneapolis St. Paul Film Festival, Don? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. International Film Festival. But it's a really long name.
Yeah. the Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival. Yeah. When it was premiered down in downtown Minneapolis, and we all went. It was the first time we had all been together since the filming, to be honest. And that was really difficult to be around everybody, but also really awesome and amazing at the same time, because we were all so excited and so just reliving these awesome memories that we had this last season. And I think Don did an amazing job capturing that moment in time for us. Like it was really hard. Like she said, it was our last season. For me, I'd been skating for 10 years, year round, nonstop, without a break. And like, that was a hard year for me. And she captured it so beautifully, so beautifully. And so when we were there and everybody was watching it, it was a trip. It was really, really good. Yeah. And I had a lot of people coming up to me saying, things about my miscarriages and things about, being hard on myself, people telling me I think you were an introvert, right? Like a lot of things like that, where it's just like, this is who I am, and this is what goes on between the years. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you both this. I ask every guest this. So I'm going to start with you, Dawn. But when it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave behind when they think of Don Mikkelson?
Ooh, wow. That's a big one.
I know what I think about Don Mikkelson.
Oh no. This is terrifying. No, I mean, I guess I would want to be known for being somebody who tells stories that are empowering, and that the people who are in these films are empowered by telling their stories. I think that in particular in documentary, we've been having a lot of conversations in recent years about the impact of filmmaking on participants, because it's really vulnerable. And, like Kimber's talking about, your experience at that theater, and it's like, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so it has been a practice of mine since the beginning to make sure that participants are okay after their interviews, like, are you sure you want this in the film? Because, at the end of the day, everybody signed releases. I could just put anything out there if I wanted to, but I don't want to be that person.
Right.
And I think that, it's important in the work that I do and in this field to understand that people are sharing their truth. And somebody recently said to me, they use the term enthusiastic consent. And I like that idea. The idea that, people are like, yeah, no, that's me. I'm down with that. So I guess maybe that's it. I think that film in general connects us on this universal level, right? It's like, regardless of whether you play Derby or not, there's people who see themselves in these stories. People see themselves in Kimber's story. People see themselves in Smokeahanas. I've had a lot of people say they saw themselves in Brickyard, so, and that's been kind of fun. It's kind of like, what do you call that? Harry Potter, it's like, are you a Gryffindor?
Right.
Like, what is your character? What house are you in?
Yeah, right.
But, so I guess it's that feeling of being connected with people that you might not otherwise know. And, I don't know, I get all world PC about this stuff if I'm not careful.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's great.
I think your legacy is the unabashed cheerleader for the underdog feminist movement.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's what I think you are. And I think you are an expert storyteller.
Oh, thank you.
I agree. I concur. And I think those 3 Emmys that you have, also agrees with that.
Even in that other film too, the Finding Your Beat, right? The one that you were making at the same, or editing at the same time, right?
Yeah.
They out in similar moments. Like, you can see your legacy in your work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah. I came out with 2 films that were both about powerful women being powerful with their bodies at the same time. And it's kind of been awesome. It's been really fun.
No, it is. That's incredible. So. Absolutely. So Kimbers, how about you?
My legacy?
Yeah.
Oh, well, as Shiver Me Kimbers, or as just me?
As you.
As me, I hope my legacy is to grow. I just want to grow. Life sucks and life is beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? Life can be boring. Life can be exciting.
Yeah.
Life can hurt, and life can feel really good. And as long as I'm walking one foot in front of the other, being myself, like one of my really good friends, Betty LaRude, says, like, I don't want to leave this world without any scars or anything else, right? I want to leave this world knowing that, like, I had a fucking great time.
Absolutely.
No matter how hard it was.
Yeah.
And if my knees are gone by the time I'm 60, so be it.
Yeah.
Right. But I always want to grow, and I want to enjoy what I have that's in front of me.
Absolutely. That's so well said. Both of you. And I can't thank you enough, and it's been an honor to have you both on. What a great documentary. Again, it's on the streaming platforms, Apple TV, Amazon, correct? Amazon? Is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
So make sure you watch out for Minnesota Mean. Go watch it. It's empowering. And I think everybody, no matter, women or men, should be seeing this film and learning from it. So again, thank you both for your time tonight. I really appreciate the honor of your time, and you're always welcome back onto my show. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. This has been great.